The mind without healthy intellect could just bum rush up Everest, take you right into the jaws of death. Freezing up there because you didn't really have a plan. You didn't really prepare for it. We back with another reflection on that Daily Vedantic. Today's reflection is on a phrase that was once told to me by a mentor. I was running a startup at the time, maybe 70, 80 employees, and the mentor said, I was in my 20s, I was way just outside my comfort zone, way outside of my comfort zone. And one could say even way ahead of my skis. And through the addictive nature of ambition, just thought, independent of wherever my level is, I'm just going to go for as big of a company, big of a mission, big of a ambition as possible. It was very silly. Even though we had this mission that we'd articulate, when I look back, it was clearly, the majority was just financial engineering, ego engineering. When I was building this company in Silicon Valley, this was probably a decade ago when I got this advice. In the midst of so many other things that were overwhelming, one of the things that the mentor told me, he said, it's better to get rid of the pebble in your shoe before it becomes a boulder on your back. And what he meant by this was get ahead of problems when they're small, because it's actually quite easy to get ahead of problems when they're small. Maybe someone you know is just not the right employee fit, not the right team member for the task at hand. And even though it might feel like it's really uncomfortable to solve it then, it's a lot easier to do that right then than it is to wait till they have a team of 7 people under them, or they've deployed a budget of $100,000 in a strategic direction. This is one of the best pieces of advice I've got for life, for business, for managing relationships, is over-communicating when there's a pebble in the shoe, way before it becomes a boulder on your back. The philosophical parallel to this is the intellect. The development of the intellect is the development of the capacity to see the end in the beginning. Meaning that you can see, wow, this pebble, this small little issue is going to grow and grow. If I'm not careful, it's going to become a massive issue down the road, but right now it's really easy to solve. And within this philosophy, that central contribution to our practical lives that I talk about quite often, the intellect guides the mind. That's the role of the intellect. The mind can take you to high heights, but the intellect is what keeps you cool, calm, collected throughout the journey. The mind without a healthy intellect could just bum rush up Everest and take you right into the jaws of death. Freezing up there because you didn't really have a plan. You didn't really prepare for it. It was way above your level. I know that feeling really well in business. But this capacity to see the end in the beginning ultimately translates to a sensitivity when things are small, when issues are small. Even when a thought flow begins of, man, I wonder what a brand new car would be like. Oh, I wonder what it would be like to be CEO. Well, I kind of like those letters. I know my dad would find it impressive. I know my mom would think that's cool. And if we don't get ahead of these seemingly innocuous thoughts, these thoughts become a thought flow, which becomes desire, which becomes unhappiness and agitation until we fulfill that desire. And before you know it, it's taking us 20 miles off course. It's an invisible boulder on our back. We cannot rest we will not be comfortable until we achieve this or that desire. This becomes dangerous when we start to put our thought flow, the little trickle of thought flow, pebble, towards these worldly pursuits that can take us wildly far from home. Adventure is a great thing if what you're doing it for is your development, progress, the service of your community. Adventure just for you to go find glory and gold, that can end in a whole lot of mayhem. Example that comes to mind, and Swami brings this up quite often in lectures, that you have something like Shakespearean tragedies, like Macbeth, where one wrong decision ends up turning the fates of everyone in the play, where everyone ends up dead at the end. All because Lady Macbeth says, you know, you should be king. And Macbeth says, yeah, maybe. Starts to entertain a thought, and a thought becomes thought flow. It's not driven by where can I be useful, where can I serve, what is my duty or obligation. It's driven by what can I get. And everyone's dead at the end. The whole life was going so well. Ramana Maharshi would say, you all keep leaving the shade to go out and get burnt. And implied in that first part, you keep leaving the shade. Leave, then you get burnt, come back. You're in the shade, made in the shade. Then you leave and get burnt. We can't stop ourselves. I know it's a constant struggle within my own intellect and mind of, oh, should I pursue that? Should I go after this? That would be kind of cool. And yet I think about this Pebble's phrase. Oh, this is actually a pebble. This is really easy to solve for right now. Think and see the end of in the beginning of what that would become, even if I got that thing. To get the pebbles out of our shoes makes the journey so much more pleasant. Just to remove the pebbles, much less to avoid what each of these pebbles can become in terms of thought flow, desires, grand ambitions, decades-long pursuits, and ultimately boulders on our backs that can crush us. The capacity to see the end in the beginning and setting aside the time to reflect, to see that end as clearly as possible. That is the practicality of philosophy in general. That's the practicality of a strong intellect. And that's one hell of a way to avoid a whole lot of trouble in life. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.